What's not okay to do with a guy friend when you have a boyfriend? The opposite of this. My 17, soon to be 18-year-old nephew had a prom recently. His parents are good friends with a couple in Florida, and for whatever reason, he was invited to Florida to be the couple's daughter's date for prom. Mind you that this wasn't some family-held secret. His parents knew it, duh. My parents knew it. His sisters knew it, aunts and uncles knew it, grandparents knew it. We were at a restaurant and began talking about it when my nephew went to the bathroom, as he's embarrassed about the topic. My sister came to the conclusion that he should not tell his girlfriend, and everyone else nodded in agreement. I was the only one who was gawking at her in disapproval. It's one thing to go to prom with another girl. It's another to do so and not tell your girlfriend about it, as well as lie about what you were doing at the time. I said the standard, if you were on the receiving end, how would you feel? But no one batted an eye. Bruh, the heck. This whole situation is giving me secondhand embarrassment. I wasn't even involved and I'm still cringing. Story 2. Depends on what friendly means to you. I once had a female friend who was super friendly and very physically affectionate. She'd greet me with a kiss. She'd cuddle up with me on the couch. She liked to hold hands. I was fine with this and knew she was being friendly and there weren't romantic ties to her actions. However, once she got a significant other and my friend's actions continued, they were understandably upset. So the other comment of, don't do what you wouldn't do if your boyfriend was standing next to you is generally good advice. It doesn't cover it if you think your actions are fine, like the girl in my story thought. It's best to have a conversation if you sense him getting upset and see if your boundaries align with his. It doesn't mean bend to his will and make him happy, but at least you'll know if his boundaries are acceptable to you and you'll avoid arguments from playing it by ear and waiting for a fight. Story 3. Use them as a boyfriend replacement when your boyfriend is not available. I'm not really talking about physical stuff. I mean, using another guy to fill in whatever void you would normally do with your boyfriend if he happens to not be available. I get platonic friends and workplace partners are a thing, but trying to fill an emotional void with someone else because your boyfriend isn't available is what sends mixed signals more than anything. Even if that's not the conscious intent, I want to emphasize it's okay to do things if your partner isn't available with other people or even just another person. It's more a self-examination of when you're interacting with another person singularly and why. Story 4. I remember a conversation with my ex. She was quite close to their own ex who she had been friends with for years before they even got together. So I understood her keeping in touch with him and they shared a friend group, etc. So I wouldn't want to get in the way of that. However, after a party, she mentioned she had stayed over at, we'll call him Pete's, and that she'd done it before, so it's quite handy. It was a long time ago, so I can't remember the finer details, but I ended up asking where she slept when staying at Pete's, and it turns out she would sleep in his bed, with him. That was one of our final conversations. So, I suppose sharing the bed with a guy friend qualifies for the list, especially if it's your ex. Story 5. There's a lot of structured answers here, but the real answer is that it depends. You need to have a real conversation with your partner and be open about your feelings and boundaries. Then you can figure out what's okay to do with friends. I've been married for over 25 years and my wife and I know each other's boundaries. Friends are fine. We do not hide stuff from each other. Neither of us is into watching the other person flirt. I'm a bit more possessive than she is, but we've talked about it. Instead of trying to control her, I try to start with how I feel and what those feelings are rooted in. I wasn't always like this. Younger me was idiotic. One of my best friends is super relaxed with his wife and doesn't care if she flirts or dances with other guys. She's more possessive than he is, but they make it work because they've had honest conversations. Story 6. Cuddling, long hugs, and obviously intimacy. Don't talk to them about your intimate life or go crying to them for comfort if you get into a conflict with a significant other. If your partner needs you, like if their car breaks down or they get mugged, don't use this person as an excuse for why you can't be there for them. A lot of people wouldn't want their significant other to be alone with an opposite gender friend in a private space either. It's up to you whether this is a deal breaker for you. And it's totally okay if it is, but most people I know in relationships generally hang out with their opposite gender friends in a group of 3 or more. Story 7. I think you want to know about a specific thing, but unless you tell us what specific thing you want to do, we can only give you general answers. I think there are 2 ways to approach this issue. Imagine your boyfriend was doing this thing with a different girl that you didn't know. If you don't like it, then don't do it. And if you like it, but it turns you on, probably still don't do it. Imagine your boyfriend is in the room somewhere and you're talking with a guy that he doesn't know. Do you look around to see if your boyfriend is watching before you do this thing? If so, then don't do it. If you think you might have to explain to your boyfriend why you're doing it, then don't do it. Story 8. I'm not friends with any girls I wouldn't mind sleeping with. That's usually almost always a sticky situation. That's why couples are uncomfortable about it. Because, well, yeah, tread carefully. It usually doesn't work out the way you think it will. Yes, you can absolutely have friends of the opposite gender, but they usually come over with their kids and husband during a 4th of July barbecue and leave shortly after. It really depends on the context. But having a single friend of the opposite gender that you're constantly in contact with usually never ends well for anyone. There might not be an underlying motive, but 9 times out of 10, there usually is. Story 9. Rule number 1. Don't do anything you wouldn't tell your partner over breakfast. Rule number 2. If that starts to feel like you can't do anything whatsoever at all, double check whether your partner is actually relationship material. Take it from someone who's been mono and a triad and who's been in 2 poly and open relationships for 8 and respectively 3.5 years. What does and doesn't work in a relationship depends on the people in it and how well they communicate. There's folks out there who can draw the line at cuddling friends and others who couldn't give less of a crap. There's already folks who lose their crap at 1-to-1 time. Those are not dating material, just to be utterly clear. And others were a lot more relaxed. The person to ask is always our partner first, and then ourselves. If we are okay with the rules our partner wants to put down, all dandy. And if not, there is either compromise or a necessary breakup that, while sad, benefits everyone involved in the long run. People who walk through this world thinking their personal way of doing things is the one and only rarely overlap with people who make for great partners. Story 10. Me and my fiancée recently broke up because of the thing she was doing with her male friend who was bi. Only had a history of dating girls. Tried to set boundaries as it was making me uncomfortable. Mostly it was the texting. It was her only Snapchat friend she talked to consistently. Never really snapped me. Had more one-on-one time with her than I did because of school. Constantly sending selfies, texted each other till midnight, buying her a lot of gifts. Never compromised whenever I tried to set boundaries. Called me controlling. She'd get all dolled up whenever he came over. Wore his old clothes he gave her. Talked about toys. Wasn't coming home on time when I watched her son and had dinner ready. Confided in him about her relationship problems. Became more distant and started hiding her phone more. I don't think anything physical occurred, but emotionally, I felt like she was cheating and I was being pushed further back in her priorities. We couldn't trust each other anymore. And breaking it off, though painful, was the right call, due to all the stress it was having on her health, at least mine. I was packing my things to move out, he was there, already replacing me, it seemed. I believe boys and girls can still be friends, but it's up to your particular dynamic to see what is okay and what is not. Admittedly, I am an insecure person, but in our case, she wasn't doing much to make me feel secure in the first place. Okay, I get borrowing a t-shirt, but like, his old clothes? Was this some kind of weird symbolic gesture? Like she was absorbing his essence or something? Story 11. Oh man, I was in this situation for years. My best friend had a boyfriend who didn't like me. I didn't like him either because of how he treated her. We worked together and hung out after work and stuff for years, and I was genuinely in love with this girl, but she was already taken by the schmuck. Didn't feel right about the whole situation, so I quit my job and told her how I felt, and I understood the situation and we needed to not see each other anymore. A year went by, and they ended up breaking up. We've now been together for almost 3 years, and I think I'm gonna marry this girl. Spent years being silent about my feelings because I knew it wasn't respectful to her or him as much as I didn't like him. I don't know if I really answered the question, but I'd say if you're disrespecting the relationship at all, it's not okay. Story 12. Don't ask your male friends to do all the favors, chores, and tasks that you don't want to ask your boyfriend to do. I don't mean specialized tasks. If your buddy Joe is a plumber and he can help you replace a hot water heater on the cheap, you call Joe and ask him for help. However, I've had female friends ask me to do all sorts of errands for them, and when I asked why their boyfriends couldn't, they said some derivation of, I don't want to annoy my boyfriend. Why the heck are you annoying me? Getting married was the best decision ever made in my life. Some women really do not understand boundaries. Story 13. If you call this person your boyfriend, you must be committed to them. I believe a couple needs to be a unit while maintaining their individuality. What I mean is embrace your beliefs and thoughts, but also be able to put yourself in your partner's shoes and see your actions and beliefs from their perspective. No two minds are the same, so understanding each other is key. If you truly are committed to this person, then anything that you wouldn't do in front of your boyfriend with this guy, i.e. affection, flirting, inappropriate jokes, or anything around that matter, just don't do it. If you want to be with your boyfriend, don't create trust issues. Guy friends always reach the point where they feel they can go to the next level, regardless of if you have a partner or not. So if it's worth it to keep your boyfriend, keep your friend a friend. Maybe even tell him you don't feel comfortable hanging out with him without your man. Maybe even try to get them to become friends. Keep his trust and he will keep you happy. Much love. Stay true. Story 14. Spending much more time with him rather than with your partner. My best friend and I have known each other since we were preteens. I was literally the first friend they ever had because they were raised in a remote farm with next to no contact outside of their family. We do almost everything together. And for as long as we've known each other, we spend more time together than we spend with anyone else in our lives outside of work. We're both in relationships. I've known my boyfriend for about 8 months, give or take. Been together for less. They've been together for about a year. Both of our partners know this and understand that, yes, I am going to do more things with this person I've shared over half my life with, went through some serious traumas with, hit almost all of my current major life milestones with, than the person who I've known for a few months. If I use she to describe this relationship, it's fine. It's childhood friends, maintaining a friendship together even as their lives change. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of cheesy movies about that exact thing that people point to as an ideal friendship. If I use he, it's emotional cheating. It's disrespecting my boyfriend. It's unacceptable and I should be ashamed of myself. I'm bisexual. Am I just not supposed to have any close relationships outside of my partner? The societal expectations of adults basing who they should form a platonic relationship with and how many of them are men is freaking weird. And I can't, for the life of me, understand why it's the standard. Story 15. Honestly, I don't believe in guy friends. I guarantee if a girl who has many guy friends for experimental purposes calls these guy friends and tells them to come over and fool around, the majority of them will be on their way. Not so guy friend, is it? Also, I guarantee if you break up with your boyfriend, you will probably run to your guy friend. I think male and women can be friends only in rare situations. I have a lady friend who I go fishing with. She's a lot older than me. There's no attraction. There's never been anything between us. My ex used to go crazy when we went fishing together. I invited my ex to come with me as many times, and she never came. Then she tells me she has this childhood guy friend who they had a fling with. And one time took all of us to hang out, and I said no. When we broke up, she ran to her guy friend. Lol. Now she's trying to get me back, but we have deeper issues than guy friend or lady friend, so now it's another story. Story 16. Constant texting, including late-night texts from bed. In my scenario, this wasn't ever hidden from me, which perhaps proved my girlfriend didn't realize how that looked, but after I said something, that should have meant something. It continued nevertheless. And it's not just about the awkward times or the closeness. It's about when having some fun or interesting story to share, she shares it first with a guy friend instead of me. That's a red flag in my humble opinion. It also matters whether this is a guy she's been friends with since long before she met her boyfriend, in which case you can't really require someone to end the relationship, and meeting someone new while in a relationship and getting to that point of closeness. When I'm in a relationship, I avoid getting too friendly with girls I've just met. My logic is, if I'm happy, I don't really need this. Story 17. Talk to your boyfriend about this. Not everyone has the same boundaries. My general rule of thumb is that if you would do it with a girlfriend, it's probably fine. I think most people would find that a bit too lenient, but when you enter the realm of dating or being a bisexual person, you realize that it doesn't really make sense to set your boundaries based on the gender of the person in question. Intent matters a lot, too. For example, if you're the kind of person who likes to kiss your friends in the cheek as a show of affection, that's not a problem as long as everyone involved, you, your partner, the friend in question, consents. When it becomes a problem is when the intent shifts from being friendly to being in pursuit of some sort of romantic or gratification. Story 18. My best friend is a guy, and it's never been an issue for my husband. We've talked about it a time or two, and my husband has told me that the reason it's never bothered him that his wife has a guy best friend is because I've always been completely transparent about their relationship. I consistently include my husband in plans with my friends, including the BFF. We've always gone out on double dates with the BFF and his wife, and it also helps, in my husband's opinion, that my BFF is not my type at all. I'll also say that I do have boundaries on what I will talk about with my BFF, with him being the opposite gender. For example, I would never complain about my husband to my BFF or share details on a fight we'd had. And I feel that way because I wouldn't want my husband sharing that kind of stuff with his female friends. And when I'm out to dinner or something with just the BFF, my husband knows exactly where I am and when I'll be home. So no secrets or unknowns. Story 19. When I was younger, I used to hang out with a girl I was romantically interested in, even though I was in the friend zone and I knew it. I was hoping something romantic would organically come from our close friendship, but never wanted to force anything or make it weird. And nothing like that ever happened. She would hit me up to hang out all the time and almost every time would end up sleeping in my bed with me, even though we never did anything intimate. She would say that even when she got married, her husband would have to respect her relationship with her best friend, me, and he could kick rocks if her sleepovers made him feel uncomfortable. She really genuinely thought that would be okay to do. I think that's really, really stupid, because as a boyfriend, I would not feel comfortable with my girlfriend sleeping in her male best friend's bed with him all the time. And I don't think many girlfriends would appreciate their boyfriend sleeping in an attractive girl's bed on a weekly basis, especially if the boyfriend always calls her his best friend. She absolutely did not see how glaring of a red flag that would be for 99.9% of monogamous people. It really made me question which red flag society mostly agreed upon, and whether I'm the odd one. Story 20. The answers are already decisive, but sometimes the boundaries aren't as clear. For example, I played a touring band some years ago, and we did a one-week stint where a female backup singer was with us. My significant other had an irrational fear that this girl had a crush on me, though never having met her. She tried to stop me from going and was incredibly anxious the whole time I was away. I also had to give up my female friendships from high school for her. Meanwhile, it's okay for her to have male friends. Just last week, she was on her way out of the house and said she was getting lunch with Brant. It was a guy who was clearly interested in her around the time we started dating. I took the high ground and said it's cool, trusting her even when she didn't trust me. The same guy was hanging out when she lived with her parents, and she let him stay over when I got late. Separate rooms, apparently. Her parents said, "Don't you think Phoebes plays keys won't like that?" She just said, "He trusts me." I'm okay with it as I trust her, but sometimes it feels weird when the same isn't reciprocated. Story 21. There are a lot of normal answers, but ultimately the only real answer is you should respect the boundaries you and your boyfriend agreed to. Almost every other top answer is irrelevant if you have a discussion about boundaries and agree to what they should be, up front. A lot of, "I don't want my boyfriend to know," and that's pretty legit, but it's very possible that you have an open relationship with a don't ask, don't tell policy. So that goes out the window. Same for, "I wouldn't want my boyfriend to do it if the roles were reversed." Maybe your boyfriend has fixations and wants you to have intimacy with other guys, but you don't feel that way and want him to only be intimate with you. That's a totally legit scenario. Talk to each other and establish boundaries and then respect them. Story 22. On the subject of friendships, that's something that varies from relationship to relationship. Some people won't care, some will. Some will have a reason, some won't. Maybe your relationship matures after a year or two and becomes solid enough to accommodate platonic friendships. When I first met my wife, her best friend from high school got back in touch with her after we'd been dating for a month. She brought it up, told me that they'd had intimacy once out of boredom, that she wouldn't talk to him because of it. I didn't care either way, so just sort of went with it. When he tried reaching out to her again and she just decided I should be fine with her reconnecting, it caused a bit of friction at first. I was upset because she made the decision without talking to me about it. So we all hung out together a couple times. Now I see a lot of people talking about how, if you trust your significant other, then why are you so crazy? But unless you're poly or someone with a involving multiple partners and in a relationship that accommodates your desires, why is it so hard to understand that you don't want someone hanging around your partner that you can tell wants to fool around with them? It's not even so much an issue of trust. It's not a red flag to not want your significant other to spend time privately with someone who wants to replace you, especially if there's a history involved. It only becomes a red flag if you extend that to include everyone of your significant other's preferred gender as someone who wants to sleep with your partner. It's true. Platonic relationships exist. It's also sadly true that a lot of really good friendships are ruined because of jealousy in your relationship. However, it's also true that a lot of times, that person who your partner sees as a sibling refuses to acknowledge the fact that said sibling gives off all kinds of signals and will frequently put before you because they've always been my best friend, etc., etc., is probably who they're going to cheat on you with, if they end up cheating on you. So back to the story. I hang out with my wife and this dude. He gets weird around me, squaring up and showing off in front of me and her. I tell my wife, she agrees it's weird, but is sure that there's nothing like that going on. Long story short, when he realized she was in a happy, committed relationship, he ghosted her. So yes, there can absolutely be platonic relationships, but you shouldn't be upset about your partner wanting to make sure that's what it is, unless they're being completely crazy about it. If you absolutely must maintain this friendship, even at the cost of your partner's hurt on the matter, then the relationship isn't compatible as is. You need to work it out between or break up. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 23. In my view, anything where it's just the two of you, especially if the guy friend is single, there's an overwhelming probability, in my opinion, the guy friend wants to fool around but settles for not. To some extent, I suppose it also depends on how much time the dude wants to spend with a woman who's already in a relationship. Why isn't he out there finding someone for himself at that time? Hanging out with friend groups and such is fine, but if my girl would routinely go hang out alone with some other dude, I'd consider that an issue. I wouldn't try to forbid her or anything like that. Controlling what other people do is not great. I just really question what she needed from another dude so badly that she'd go hang out with him alone. Just the two of them. Real platonic friendship between two attractive people of the opposite gender is borderline myth, in my opinion. Many people pretend it's common. Sure. Story 24. Well, it's like this. If the boyfriend liked her enough to keep her, then he probably should have put a ring on it. This ain't kindergarten, folks. You don't get to play house with no ties. Taking all her time while you decide if you really want to keep them or not? Make her move or lose her. Same goes for women. Either take care of your guy or someone else will. Stop taking things for granted. You snooze, you lose. They haven't done anything wrong in my book. They aren't married, they're dating. They didn't pledge an oath or swear under God to be with that person until passing do they part. They ain't doing anything but playing with the thought of being married. Until they're married, all bets are off. Fair game. Play ball. Story 25. Truthfully, almost anything that you feel you need to keep a secret. But even then, there are some things that I wouldn't be comfortable with my girlfriend doing with another guy. The same way she would feel if I did similar things with a girl. The main things are kisses of any kind that aren't quick pecks in the cheek. Full frontal hugs that last several seconds. Basically if your cheek is against their chest or vice versa. Too intimate for me. Hand-holding. Sharing a bed. These are the main ones. I would be cautious about venting to guy friends about the relationship, unless something is actually wrong. I've seen a few relationships turn into emotional cheating because she complained that he didn't do the dishes, or he complained she didn't notice his new clothes or something. And then the friend validates and then strokes their ego. Weaker people fall prey to that feeling and cheat rather than end the relationship. If you're seeking or fulfilling emotional needs that should be fulfilled in a relationship, take a second look. Think long and hard if you want to even be in that relationship, because cheating of any kind is awful. Story 26. I personally don't talk to others of the opposite gender outside of public and professional situations, besides siblings and parents. That is not something my wife asked of me. She does the same for me. People put themselves in these situations and it just seems crazy to me. I'm also a fan of windows and office doors and things of that nature. I've seen lots of people talk about trust. It's not about trust. I trust my wife completely. I appreciate that she doesn't put herself in situations where there's even the remote possibility of something happening. She appreciates the same as me. We're both human and temptation is a thing. Respect your partner enough to not put yourself in that situation. Story 27. Tickling. Me and my ex broke up because she had a friend that started tickling her too often for me. Sometimes even in the swimming pool when she was wearing a bikini. I was in the right? My ex and her friends kept saying it was just fooling around, but I couldn't stand it, so we broke up. Before you ask, no, she's not with him now and nothing happened between the two apart from tickling and hug tickling. Just ask your partner and don't think, what if it was me? Quite often both partners have different sensibilities or perspectives of what's actually going on. Once you know how your partner feels, you can negotiate how much you're willing to forfeit. I'm sure you wouldn't want your actions to make your partner suffer, or you wouldn't want a partner that makes you suffer or doesn't care about it. Though if you feel you're forfeiting too much, then maybe your personalities aren't a match. Hey, sweetie, how do you feel about my friend tickling me when we're fooling around? I wouldn't mind if you tickled some of your girlfriends, but you might. What's your thoughts? As a counterexample, I'm currently married with a different woman, and when I was dating this woman, I went to a music festival, but she couldn't come. So I went with two other girlfriends and the three of us shared a tent. This could be too much with a different person or a different relationship, but my absent girlfriend, now my wife, trusted me. I've never done anything that challenged her trust, and I never betrayed nor cheated on her. But I would accept it if she wanted me to buy a new tent lot and sleep by myself in a different tent. Just speak and ask your partner. Manage expectations. Hug tickling? Is that like regular tickling but with more embrace? Sounds intense. I'm picturing a full-on wrestling match but with giggles. Story 28. So incredibly simple. If he cannot come along at any time, it's not something you should do. This also means if he decides to show up wherever you are with his guy friend and you would be nervous, upset, angry, or any other emotion other than, hey hon, glad you're here too, then it's not okay. And I think the easiest way for a woman to understand this question is to reverse the scenario. Would you be comfortable with him doing exactly what you're doing? There's a caveat to this though. This only applies to someone who is absolutely committed to their partner, not someone who's just got a boyfriend, isn't serious, or isn't a casual style boyfriend-girlfriend. I said for a woman because women genuinely do not understand that there are no guy friends. Guy friends either want to have intimacy with you or are gay. There's no in between. Friend zone is a real thing that many, if not most, women do not understand. Story 29. Pretty much anything. There's not a lot of platonic friendships between people of the opposite gender. Either one of you secretly wants to sleep with the other or you both do. Most men and most women, there's just not enough common interests there to base a friendship on where you both hang out with each other with no physical interest. As a guy, the female friends I had when I was younger, it was all girls, I had no attraction to at all, but 90% were into me. I'd never hang out one-on-one. I'd ask their opinion on relationships, etc., and occasionally I'd hang out as part of a larger group. If I was interested, there's no way for me to be friends. I'd either be actively pursuing something, or I'd avoid extended contact and not tempt myself, as I was in a relationship already. Anyone I ever dated, I'd be transparent that I talked to a female friend, etc., and they'd mostly pretend to be cool with that when I knew they really weren't. I just phased them out. As a married man, no freaking way. I can be friends with my wife's friends when we're in a group setting, and that's it. If one of my kids meets a friend at school they want to hang out, unless it's the father setting it up, I'm 100% giving them my wife's phone number. I can't even imagine having a female friend as a married person in their 40s. That's just a social taboo that people don't cross. As a guy, there's just not a lot of things I'd have in common with most females to base a friendship on. They might be a nice person, they might be fun in a group setting, but one-on-one, they just aren't friend material. I've had a few female friends in the past when I was younger. I had no interest in them at all, but I'm pretty sure they did in me and just were too shy to ask. Not long-term or close friends, but occasionally I'd get invited out as part of larger groups to do things with them. There was a girl I dated briefly that I kept in contact with for a few years. We complained about our dating lives and hung out a few times when we were both lonely, but nothing more than that. If it was a girl I was attracted to, there was no way I could be friends. I'd either be actively trying to change the relationship or I'd be actively disengaged because I was in a relationship and I was avoiding those sorts of scenarios. Story 30. 100% agree with if you wouldn't do or say something with your boyfriend standing there or wouldn't tell him about it, it's not okay. But I wanted to add that this also goes for the guy friend. If he is behaving in ways that he wouldn't if the boyfriend were around, speaking differently when the boyfriend is or isn't around, sending texts that he doesn't want you to show the BF, etc., that should tell you a lot about his intentions and whether he's actually a friend or just a nice guy waiting for his chance to get in your pants. Basically, if the guy friend isn't respecting, supporting, and deferring to your relationship, you are wrong for allowing him to remain a guy friend at all, and I'd dump you for allowing his behavior even if you weren't doing any of the behaviors yourself. Story 31. Depends how stupid this question is really meant to be. There's the big list of obvious stuff, but obvious is in air quotes because people can be very selfish when they think they can get away with something. So start with pretending your boyfriend was standing next to you. Would you do the thing you're doing? Any hint of no, and it's a hard no. From there, though, you have to explore the concept that your boyfriend's feelings should matter to you. And he may feel uncomfortable with you doing all sorts of things that are otherwise not generally a problem, but could be in your relationship. If your boyfriend is upset about something you're doing with your guy friend, take that seriously, regardless of what Reddit says. Ask him to explain what bothers him about it. Decide if that thing is very important to you in your relationship with your guy friend, and weigh that against making your boyfriend uncomfortable. Easy examples. You're dating a dude and it's very serious, you see a life with him. He doesn't like that you kiss your guy friend when you say hello. He doesn't make a big fuss, but he does mention it. Stop kissing your guy friend. You're dating a dude who's more of an intimate buddy than a life partner. He sees a pic of you and your friend on Instagram and demands that you stop seeing him and block him. Tell your buddy no and part ways if needed. Story 32. My girlfriend moved in with me after about 2 months of going out. It was sudden, yes, a little foolish. I was cooking for her every night and it was a bit of a whirlwind romance. I can't remember why, but something really nagged at me. A suspicion. I decided long ago that I'd either completely trust someone or not at all. I don't do jealousy. I'd rather trust than worry. If I can't trust someone, we shouldn't be together. End of story. For whatever reason, she left her iPad out and logged into Facebook. I checked her messages and found that every special and difficult meal I cooked for her, she had taken a photo of, sent it to a guy she was in contact with and told him she made it, and couldn't wait to see him again and cook it for him. Turned out later as well that this guy had met her on Tinder and paid her to have intimacy with him. Multiple times. She was basically turned on to the idea of selling herself, and after I ended it and she moved out, she went into that business. Story 33. Having a guy friend. You either learn this the easy way or you learn it the hard way. Most of us end up learning the hard way. Be smarter than most. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. It always goes wrong. You can be friendly with people at work or school. I'm not saying be a schmuck to every guy you ever meet, but anything beyond appropriate workplace niceties will lead to problems. Don't flirt. Don't spend time alone. Don't share meals or drinks. Don't exchange gifts or get each other things, including coffee. Don't touch. Don't forget to mention your boyfriend. Don't complain about your boyfriend to him. Don't let that one slide or not enforce boundaries because it would be rude. The only time it is okay to meet outside of work or school is if you both have significant others. You both bring them and you do double dates as couple friends. if everyone is in agreement. But that does not change any of the other rules. Been on every single side of these dice, and it has never once not turned out horribly. Someone always gets hurt. Story 34. My best friend since high school got a super cool girlfriend right after we graduated. He used to work long hours, and since I was back home only for the summer, I used to spend lots of time with her or them. Like shopping with her, going out for a coffee or a movie, picking her up from work, and then we would both go together to pick him up and hang out. The three of us would go camping together, going to concerts, and had a total blast for a few summers. They eventually broke up years later, but me and her never had anything between us except pure friendship and fun. Even if she had developed feelings, her friends as girls were a huge no-no to me. One of my girlfriends at the time found all this super weird. She thought we were having a sick triad relationship, and she never fully trusted me. We had arguments all the time, and she even took that girl out to talk to her, get to know her, and smooth things out. This just never worked out. Eventually, we broke up, and she wrote me a letter saying she wants to come to our wedding. Funny enough, my best mate's ex-girlfriend organized her wedding with my current lovely wife. And my wife and she have been very good friends for almost 10 years now. Almost everyone that knew us at the time thought we were together secretly behind my best mate's back, so needless to say, we lost some friends along the way because of that. Sounds like a super schmuck thing to do, but as said above, nothing ever happened and all of us are still on best of terms. So, needless to say, not everything is as it looks from the outside. Story 35. As a man who shares 100% of the values of other men that I've met through my life, a platonic guy friend for a female doesn't exist. The same goes for a male friend for a guy who's in a relationship. Is it possible to be platonic with the other gender while in a relationship? Yes, but what is the point? Are you trying to build a long-term relationship? Have a family in the future, or you just have a boyfriend or girlfriend for fun? A female should have female friends and a guy should have male friends. If those friends are toxic, pushing to cheat, binge drink, and try to influence you while they're single and you're in a relationship, you distance yourself from them, which is why most older people who have a working long-term relationship barely have close friends anymore. Story 36. Look, the simple fact is that a lot of girls keep guys around to be their recovery boyfriend if their current boyfriend breaks up with them. To do this, they flirt so slightly with them or say things like, "Oh, I wish my current boyfriend would do what you just did," just enough for the guy to think, "Man, if she was single, she'd probably want to date me." This is emotional mistreatment. Don't do this. If you're not comfortable in your relationship and you're afraid that your current boyfriend is going to break up with you for any reason, maybe you two aren't meant to be together, and you should accept that fact. The fact that 95% of guys who are friends with other guys' girlfriends would absolutely 100% fool around that girl if she wanted to and he was given the opportunity. There are YouTube videos on this where they go around and ask the third wheel if he'd have intimacy with her, and the answer is almost always yes. Story 37. So this is something I personally chose to do, not from pressure of any man. I won't spend time with my friend alone. There can be a group or another gal. I found my partners don't feel their insecurities as strongly this way. I feel like people are quick to shout that partners shouldn't be insecure, but the truth is, everyone has insecurities, and that's okay and human. I also think it's respectful when a guy buddy gets a girlfriend too and can help her feel less insecure. I always hope to foster a friendship with my girlfriends. I'm a girl's girl, so it's also an opportunity to expand my circle of friends. Win-win for everyone in my book. Story 38. I'm just a stranger on the internet, but I think a good way to avoid this might be to try and be friendly with a guy and make it clear that you respect the boundaries of their relationship. You probably won't see her as much, but that doesn't mean you need to lose her as a friend. When I met my wife, she had a male best friend, and we hit it off really quickly, and I became really good friends with him and his partner along with my wife. Funnily enough, they did end up having a falling out several years ago, but he and I are still friends, even if we're more distant than we used to be. I play Magic at his place most Fridays, and we also catch the draft and Super Bowl together and do fantasy football. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be the worst-case scenario, and also that you can grow apart from someone while still maintaining a fondness and respect, and you each grow and change. Think of the old friends you had from school or growing up that you don't see for many years, but pick right up again where you're left off when you finally see each other. Story 39. When one partner hides something from the other when it is not a secret from anyone else. Makes me wonder if the partner they're hiding the information from is one of those overbearing, hypocritical partners that doesn't allow their partner to do anything with other people, platonic or not. Meanwhile, they're free to do whatever they want, with anyone they want, and their partner is being psycho if they have any problem with it. Example, A doesn't allow B to hang out with her friends because they have friends of the opposite gender. And if there's any sign of B communicating with any of those friends, A accuses them of cheating. Meanwhile, A will continue spending time with all of their friends, including several exes who they are still close to, and routinely still have movie night with, wherein they snuggle up on the couch and share a bowl of popcorn, occasionally falling asleep and spending the night cuddled in each other's arms. But if B this is anything, they're being a psycho controlling partner. Story 40. Guys and girls can be friends like that. One always secretly has feelings for the other that would jump at the given chance. Men are salesmen. Women are marketers. When you choose to get in a relationship, you stop putting yourself out there to get noticed. Clubs, bars, attention-seeking behaviors, soliciting compliments from other men. Usually social media, as you expect your man to stop approaching females. Going to the bars to pick up women, flirting, chatting up. It's respect. You wouldn't appreciate if your man hung out with his female friends without you. Give him the same respect. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. Catch you in that video.